Welcome to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. Have a question for the show or need assistance with your retirement plan? Give Philip a call today. 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here alongside Philip Statler. He is president and founder of Statler Financial Services right here in Sebring. And Philip, we've got a great show lined up today, going to be talking a little bit about bad financial habits. But before we get into that, we've got some things coming up. And I guess we should also wish our listeners a happy Easter this weekend as well.
Absolutely. Huh? Yep, a happy and blessed Easter to everybody out there. I hope that your holiday is going well for you. But we do have some things coming up. Jen, I did want to mention before we really get into the meat and potatoes of our show today, and that's we've got a couple educational workshops coming up here really soon. The first one will be April 13th at 6 o'clock. And folks can go to my website at statlerfinancial.com. And there's an events tab there, and you can click the link to register right there. Now, this is really good for folks that have over $150,000 in retirement, investment accounts, that type of thing. The information will be much more suited for those folks going forward. And then we're going to do another one. It'll be the same one. We're going to repeat it on April 20th. We're going to do both a lunch and a dinner for that one. Again, it'll be on our website at statlerfinancial.com under the events tab, and you can register for any of those right there.
All right. Good to know. Thank you very much. And we do have a lot to get to here on the show today on the Statler Financial Radio Show. Anytime is a good time to break a bad habit, whether you want to make improvements in your routine at home, your job performance at work, with your physical health or your financial health. The time to make a positive change for your future is right now. And you are in the right place as we get into this here today. Philip, 3 out of 4 Americans don't have a written financial plan. That means most of us are winging it when it comes to spending. So when we talk about bad financial habits, how could we break the bad habit of living without a budget?
You know, Jen, that's probably one of the hardest ones out there. And today it's become easier, right? Because there's all kinds of apps that people can track their expenses. To me, that's the hardest part, right? I mean, we know where the income's coming from, but tracking our expenses, what are we spending money for and what are we spending it on? Because that really helps us to kind of figure out what retirement's going to look like for us in terms of how much money do we need to spend or will we have to spend in retirement? Too often people, I think, do it backwards, right? They say, here's my pot of money and I'm going to spend it till it's gone. The problem is that it can be gone and they still have fixed costs that they have to cover. And so that's why the budget is so important. So tracking your expenses and what you're spending money on will give you so much understanding of what your budget needs to look like and how much money you're really and truly going to need in retirement to have the retirement you always dreamed of.
Right. And when we talk about some of these bad habits, Philip, complacency, I think that's another bad habit for a lot of us. We don't make regular adjustments to our portfolio. We don't pay attention to the fees we're paying. Keep our money with some financial institutions just because we don't like to take the time to explore other options. It's just easier to put things away and just leave them. How does working with someone like you help us keep from becoming too complacent when it comes to our retirement money?
Well, I think complacency is easy, right? Because, hey, if it's in the back of my mind, I'm not worried about it. But it also means that it's in the back of your mind. You're not worried about it. Things could go wrong and you're not paying attention until it's too late. And so that's where I think complacency is a deal. You need to be on top of your retirement finances. And that's why we meet with our clients, at least once, if not twice to 3 times a year to make sure that they're on track. They're doing what they need to do and that their income is sufficient to get them where they need to be. Nobody likes to make changes, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the show today. Is that change is hard, and nobody likes to make changes because of that. So, you know, it does mean that we have to make some changes, though, because otherwise, being complacent is going to take over, and that's just a dangerous place to be. If too many things can go wrong, and we don't want to see that happen to folks in retirement.
Right. As I mentioned, a lot of times we don't pay attention to things like the fees that we're paying. Talk a little bit about how much the impact things like that can have on our retirement. When we talk about things we aren't always paying attention to, sometimes it's fees because they seem minimal, but how much of an impact could that have on us over time?
Well, you're right, Jen, because they can seem minimal, but the other thing they can see is they can be hidden. Right. We don't know where they are. And so they can be very impactful from that standpoint. So let's just look at a few numbers here. Right. So if we look at some historical data that Vanguard kind of put together, we know that from 1926 until 2019, that if you had a blend of 80% stocks and 20% bonds in your portfolio, that you would have earned about 9.7% a year on average over that time span. So that's pretty good. If you're putting $1,000 a month away over 40 years, now granted, in 1926, that would have been a lot of money, right? But still, it would have grown to $5.8 million.
Wow.
But if you think about fees for a minute and the impact they could have, if you were paying just 1%, that means you're 9.7 and now be 8.7% on average over that same 40-year period of time. You would have only had a portfolio of 4.3 million. Now, that's still a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But what I want you to focus on is the difference. The difference between those two numbers, that's $1.5 million. That's 25% of your wealth to fees. That tiny 1%. And so that's why I think it's important that people know what the fees are they're paying. Now, don't get me wrong. There's going to be some fees. We can't get away without some fees. The issue is, where are those fees and what are you getting for those fees? Are you getting somebody there that can answer your phone calls, that will give you the right advice, that will be I call it the 411 and 911, right? Are they going to be there for that conversation on tax issues? Are they going to be there for that conversation on buying versus leasing a vehicle? These are all things that coaching in retirement play a part to. So the question I have for folks out there today is, do you have a financial broker, a financial advisor, or do you have a true financial and retirement coach? Somebody that's there for you to answer your questions and to help make sure that the decisions you make are in your best interest, not theirs. And that's what we really do here at Statler Financial. We're here to be your retirement coach, to help you get into retirement and to make sure that you have the retirement you always dreamed of. If you're not working with that type of person, or you're not working with anybody and you need to find that right fit for you, let us help coach you into and through retirement. Give us a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Let us coach you in retirement.
That number one more time, 863-285-3815. Philip, when we're talking a little bit about some of these bad financial habits, leaving tax breaks on the table is another bad habit to break. Talk a little bit about how having a tax-efficient retirement strategy can help keep you on track so you have more money for your own use in retirement. The same concept as watching those fees. Less fees means more money for you. Less taxes means more money for you as well, right?
You're absolutely right, Jen. And people don't think about taxes when they think about retirement. And that can be a problem, right? Because taxes do play an important role on both, I'm going to say both sides of the fence, right? So there are times when I sit down with folks that they're paying too much in taxes. They're not making the right decisions with their investments for their current path to retirement. I have other folks that I sit down with that are opposite end of the spectrum. They're not doing enough right now to pay taxes, that we want to take more out of their IRAs or more out of their retirement accounts and move them to Roths or move them to non-qualifieds, so that they're paying some tax now at these extremely low rates. But the problem is that this industry, if you call the local brokerage firm, they're going to say, well, we can't help you with that. If you call one of the major wirehouses or one of the major firms out there, they'll say, you ask them a tax question, they say, oh, we can't help you with that. Do I do a Roth conversion or not? We don't know. We can't answer that question. And that's where coaching comes into play. And helping people through that process and make sure they're making the right choices when it comes to taxes and how they've got their accounts allocated, Jen.
So, Philip, one last area of bad financial habits: procrastination. This can get the best of us. It's a habit we should all try to break. What's your message to people who've been procrastinating when it comes to creating a plan for their retirement?
Well, let's talk about that next segment, okay?
You just want to wait? Just put it off until later.
We'll just wait a little while, Hey, procrastination, it can be your biggest enemy, right? Because we're trucking along, doing our thing, thinking about retirement, but putting off those big questions like, do I have enough money to retire? Do I have the right allocation for my retirement? Am I doing things right? Do I have a plan in place to help me get through retirement? And that's the problem. Nobody wants to take the time to put together that retirement income plan. And I think that's most people's missing piece, because a lot of people, you said earlier, 25% of the folks out there do have a financial plan. The problem is a lot of times a financial plan doesn't go to that nth degree to put together that retirement income plan. The details needed to make that work. And that's really what I think folks need to understand today, is that we need to have that retirement income plan. Don't procrastinate. Put your fears behind you. Take a step forward and embrace the fact that we need to have a plan in place. We need that roadmap to know where we're going to be taking money from, when we're going to take it, and how long that's going to last, to make sure that what we have is enough and it's going to last us as long as we're here on this earth. Because nobody wants to run out of money before they run out of life. Folks, listen, if you're one of those folks out there, which most likely 90% of you are, you don't have a retirement income plan in place, a physical written document for your income plan, give us a call and let's walk you through that process. 863-285-3815. Folks, that's the number you need to call. Again, 863-285-3815. That's the number you need to call to schedule your financial x-ray. It's that easy. Again, that number is 863-285-3815. Folks, don't procrastinate. Pick up the phone, call right now, and get on the calendar, and let's start the process.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be back.
From the pitch, swung at a little too soon.
Strike three, you're out.
To the joke told at the wrong time. To barely missing your connecting flight.
This is the final boarding call for Flight 109 to Chicago.
Timing is everything. The same is true for your Social Security benefits. Take them too soon and you could leave a lot of money on the table. Take them too late and you might spend down too much of your savings. Everybody's situation can be different, but taking your Social Security benefits at the right time is important for your retirement success. Philip Statler at Statler Financial understands Social Security and can help you make decisions that are best for you and your retirement dreams. Call 863-285-3815 to start optimizing your benefits. With Social Security, timing is everything, so don't delay. Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial today. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Our firm offers insurance services and is not affiliated with the U.S. government. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here alongside Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. Philip is the inaugural Highlander Award winner for Financial Representative of the Year. StatlerFinancial.com is the website if you'd like to learn a little bit more. We're going to get into a discussion of marginal gains, the idea of making small improvements in small areas for big results over time. And I think, Philip, this is a concept that can be very valuable as we talk about preparing for retirement. So many times we're focused on the big wins and really, kind of a quick baseball analogy. We just want base hits, right? We don't necessarily need to be swinging for the fences and hitting home runs all the time. And that's just kind of a mindset we need to understand with retirement, right?
You're right. So that is a good example because, base hits will win the game.
Yeah.
Home runs, the guys that get out there and try to hit the home runs, they have a much bigger chance of striking out. And we don't want folks to strike out in retirement.
Exactly. So I have an interesting example here of how this has played out for the British cycling team competing in the Tour de France, of all things. So I don't know. Are you familiar with this story of what happened with the British cycling team and their use of the theory of marginal gains?
I'm not. Reading through some of that information, I really wasn't. I've seen it actually in business books, and most recently, I've read a couple articles and a couple books, especially Darren Hardy. He's really big about these marginal gains in your business planning. Found this story quite interesting because it really reminded me of him and his philosophy, and it just takes a little bit of an improvement in a couple little things.
Right. So just for some quick history here, this is what happened. The British cycling team, they were stuck in this, mediocrity for the better part of a century. They had never really performed really well in the Tour de France. And then they got a new coach who came along and changed up their approach to everything. And over an 8-year period, they ended up winning 16 gold medals, 7 Tour de France wins. And it's all because of the theory of marginal gains. And here are some small things that they did in preparing for the Tour de France under the guidance of Sir Dave Brailsford, who is the one who came along with some of these ideas. They had the floors of the team truck painted pristine white to spot dust on the floor because they didn't want any dust impairing their bike maintenance. They used different types of massage gels to see which one led to fastest muscle recovery. And then they hired a surgeon to teach each one of the cyclists on the team the best way to wash their hands to reduce the chances of catching a cold. Think about that for just a second. None of that had anything to do with actually riding a bike, but all of these things led to better performance. And I just think that's a really interesting perspective, Philip. So many times we're just focused on riding the bike, but there are all these other things that we can be doing that can enhance our performance as well.
You're so right. And that's a good point, is that if we will just make little changes in some of the things we're doing, can make a huge difference in the overall ultimate gain that we have. And so I look at that in retirement and think there's things that people can be doing 5 to 10 years out from retirement, just little things that would put them in a better position when they finally decide, pull that switch,
Right,
they're going to actually retire. And so it's interesting. I'm sure most people don't think in terms of sports and this making these kind of changes to the financial world, but I see a lot of financial implications to this story in the sports field.
Right. I just think it's a concept for all of us to keep in mind, because when we talk about planning for and preparing for retirement, so many times we think, oh my gosh, I need to start all over again And we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. Sometimes it's small improvements, it's small tweaks that can end up making a big difference over time. And I think that's something that we all need to keep in mind. And we'll talk about some of those small tweaks here in just a second. But Philip, just talk a little bit about the idea of someone coming in, and you aren't necessarily going to throw out every decision that they've made and everything that they've done. Sometimes it might just be some small improvements here rather than starting all over again.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of times we'll sit down with folks and they've done a lot of things perfect. They've done a lot of things just really great, but they only need to tweak a couple of other little things over here. If we tweak those couple things, man, their retirement will be right on track for what it needs to be. And the problem is knowing what to tweak. And that's where coaching comes in, right? We've got, 20 years plus coaching folks into and through retirement. And it's having that right coaching philosophy, right? Every coach has a philosophy. Same thing here. When we're heading into retirement, what is that philosophy? And how does that apply to your planning process? And I think that's a big deal, is making that little improvement time after time gets us to where we want to be in retirement.
Philip, tell us a little bit about how we can get in touch with you if we want to get started on putting together a plan, learning a little bit more about what tweaks we can make. Let's do that here real quickly. Tell us how we can reach you and what this looks like, and then we'll talk about some of those specific tweaks that we need to think about making to get those marginal gains over time.
Absolutely. Folks can reach out to us 863-285-3815. Then go to our website at statlerfinancial.com. There's a link to my calendar there. Would love to sit down with folks and help coach them through our retirement x-ray, what that means to them, and what it really points out and how it puts them on the right track to making that little incremental improvement to where they are right now. Again, that number is 863-285-3815.
Talking today with Philip Statler. He is with Statler Financial Services. I am Jen Rezac alongside. So let's talk a little bit about how things like taxes, Philip. Typically, we think about taxes just during tax season, but how can tax-efficient retirement planning help us make these marginal gains when it comes to our retirement?
It's getting the most, right, out of where you are from a tax perspective. And, we sit down with folks on both ends of the spectrum. Some people need to do something different to save taxes because they're spending too much, their income's too high, they're paying too much in taxes. And we want to, do some planning today to reduce that. But I have a lot more people on the other side of that spectrum. They have a large IRA or a large 401k, but their actual income is very, very minimal. Social Security, maybe they're fortunate to have a little pension. And here they are in the 0 to 10% tax bracket and not taking money out of their IRA because they don't need it until they hit required minimum distribution stage. And so, those people, we are giving up a small tax bracket to pay nothing. And so we're very instrumental in getting people to take that little improvement, right? Let's take some money out. Let's pay a little tax today, because that little improvement does a couple things. One, it doesn't cost us much today. Maybe we're only taking 10% out of our IRA. Maybe we're only taking out 5% out of our IRA, but that's 5% that's not growing tax deferred. That's 5% that we're not going to have to take RMDs on down the road. And maybe I take 5% this year and 5% next year and on down the line until we have to take our RMD. So there are things that you can do today, just little tiny things that will put you in a better position down the road.
So, Philip, let's go back to that idea that you mentioned a few minutes ago of having the right coach, the right financial professional who can help identify and help you make some of these small improvements in a retirement plan. Because the thing is, there are financial professionals who focus on lots of different areas of finance. Talk about why it's important to have someone who focuses on retirement. So we are making the right tweaks. We are making the right improvements when it comes to our financial health over time.
Well, Jen, you think about it. If you're working with somebody who has the spectrum, as I call it, right? They're working with the 25-year-old trying to grow their portfolio. They're working with the folks that are in their 40s and 50s thinking about retirement, and then they're working about the guys getting ready to retire, already retired. Well, you can't have one philosophy for all those different situations. That's where, if you're working with a coach that specifically works with retirement planning and making sure that folks are coached into and through retirement, it is a different philosophy, a different mindset in that area of coaching than just, the guy that's coaching a whole team of people. We're only working on one area, right? It's the only area left, though, as we're heading into retirement. And so we want to be the last coach that you hire to coach you into and through retirement, making those little improvements as we go down that road to retirement.
So, Philip, talk a little bit about how we can reach you and what this process looks like.
Absolutely. They can give us a call. It's really easy. Just call us 863-285-3815. So our process really is, I believe you can't make any change if you don't know where you are currently. From a risk standpoint, from how much risk do you have in your portfolio to how much safety do you have, versus how much market risk do you have. These are all areas that you can't move forward until you know the answer to those questions. And that's our starting point with our financial x-ray. From there, we want to move into planning for your retirement income. What does that look like for you when you get ready to retire? Or if you've already retired and you really don't have a plan in place, this is ideal for you, because you need to have a written retirement income plan in place to follow. It's kind of like, what's the lineup look like? You got to plan out the game. That's the retirement income plan, is planning out that last few innings, that last quarter of the basketball game. We want to plan that out and have a strategy in place that's going to get us to the end of the game. And that's really important to me, that people have that plan in place. They know where they are. They're ready to move forward to accomplish their goals. And a lot of times it's just making little tiny incremental changes along the way. So it's easy. Like I said, give us a call at 863-285-3815. That number again is 863-285-3815.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
If you have a retirement plan and would like a second opinion, call Statler Financial Services today. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
You toss a penny over your shoulder into a fountain and you make a wish. You look into the fountain and see a lot of pennies, but you see some quarters too. You think, who throws quarters when pennies will do? Now think about the taxes you could be paying in retirement. Do you want to throw pennies or quarters to Uncle Sam? Philip Statler at Statler Financial knows that not planning for taxes in retirement can drain your savings. Taxes can be complicated, so start planning now so you aren't caught off guard in retirement. Call Philip at 863-285-3815. Together, you'll create a plan designed to help you keep as much of your money as possible. Watch your pennies and quarters in retirement. Tell Philip Statler at Statler Financial what your retirement wishes are. Call now, 863-285-3815. That number, 863-285-3815. Our firm offers insurance services and may not give tax advice. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor firm in the state of Florida.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here alongside Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. Today, talking about the benefits of making small tweaks to help improve your overall situation. Making marginal gains needs some commitment on your part, and that makes sense, right? If you set a goal to get in shape, you have to do more than exercise. You can't go eat at a fast food joint every day and expect to reach your fitness goals or your health goals. You have to eat right too. And eating healthy requires some mental toughness because we love things like cheeseburgers and it's hard to give them up. So there's a mental aspect here as well, having some discipline. And Philip, there's an author named Amy Morin who writes about things that mentally strong people always say when we're talking about having that discipline to reach our goals and make some of those changes. So let's go over some of these things and how they can relate to retirement planning. The first thing that mentally strong people always say is, I'll consider whether that's right for me. How would that relate to retirement planning?
Well, I think that they're evaluating, right? They're evaluating what they're seeing and what they're looking at. And so I think that folks need to be open to evaluate their current circumstances. And people don't do that. They get in that rut where, hey, I've been working with this guy for 20 years. He's got me to where I am today. And so they are complacent, right? They just think, okay, it's great doing what I'm doing. Instead of, I'm getting ready to go into retirement. Am I where I need to be? Am I doing what's right for me? And evaluate and make inquisitions into other areas, other advisors, other people that might be able to get you further along than what you've been doing the last 20 years. Does that make sense, Jen?
It does. And I think, so what we're saying is we shouldn't always listen to what others would call things like proven strategies or tips for guaranteed success. We don't need to always just follow some of that traditional way of thinking. Talk about how each retirement plan needs to feel unique to the couple or the individual that you're working with, because we do need to make sure that what is right for us really suits us as individuals, right?
Well, that's true. And that's part of really evaluating stuff for you, right?
Right.
We all know that the end game is retirement. And the end game is making sure that our retirement income stays in place as long as we do. I mean, we all know that's the end game. How we get there is different for every human being because everybody gets to that point a different way. Do you have a pension? Do you have a 401k? What have you put in your 401k? How big is it? Is it a Roth? Is it a traditional? All these things come into play when we start looking at retirement down the road. And so we need to make sure we're putting together a plan that is unique for your circumstances because everybody who's getting ready to retire has a unique set of circumstances. The end game's the same. We want to retire and we want our money to last as long as we do. But how you got there and your current circumstances are going to be different than anybody else's. And so we want to put together the plan that's specifically for you, not some boilerplate off the computer. No, it's specifically worked up for you based on your current needs, future needs, and where you are today and where you want to be 20, 25 years from now.
Right. So, Philip, let's go to another thing that mentally strong people say. I need to make sure this aligns with my values. As we're talking about that discipline of working toward accomplishing our goals, we also need to make sure that the things we're doing align with our values. Where do values come in with a retirement plan?
So I think they're huge when it comes to a retirement income plan because your values determine how you spend your money. Whether that's I give a lot to charity, I support my church, I support whatever charitable organization that's near and dear to your heart. That's who you are. That's your values. Determine how you spend that money. That's important to you. You want to continue to do that even after you're retired. Same thing about kids and grandkids. And, they're important to me. We're giving money to our kids that they can spend now instead of waiting for us to pass away and inherit a big bunch of money. And that's good as long as it's done in, within some context of not hurting your retirement plan or hurting your retirement income plan. That's great. We want to support and help you, but we also want to be there to ask the hard questions, to make you think about what those answers should be, and to make sure that you're making the right decision on that whole process. But we want to make sure that you're doing and accomplishing what's important to you. And to me, that's really the values part of folks heading into retirement. Folks, if you are sitting there thinking, well, how much am I going to have to spend in retirement? What do I need to be able to spend in retirement? That's truly where a retirement income plan comes into play. Don't be like most people out there. Sit down, take the time, and to put together a retirement income plan. That's really what we do here at Statler Financial. Help people put together a plan to make sure their retirement income is going to last throughout their retirement. To get started, all you have to do is give us a call, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815 to get started on your retirement income plan.
That number again, 863-285-3815, as we talk a little bit about what mentally strong people need to do. And I shared an example about, how we need to have discipline when it comes to things like changing our health. I have to admit, I'm still a little stuck on that. It's hard to do things like make those healthy choices, reducing our cheeseburger intake and whatnot. But I think that goes in line with the next thing that mentally strong people always say, and that is, this will be hard, but I'm going to do it anyway. We want to relax in retirement, but just because you stop working doesn't mean hardships won't come your way. And also, when we talk about preparing for retirement, it might feel like it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to do that, but we need to do it anyway. So how do we stay focused on the commitment to the long-term goal when things do feel hard sometimes, or like something that we don't really want to do?
Well, and that's the key, is doing the things that we don't want to do, right? Is the hard things, making the hard choices and making the hard decisions, what leads to procrastination for a lot of folks. But strong people, that's what they do. They make the hard choices. One of the hard choices folks have to make is to sit down and actually put together a retirement income plan. And so, that's just a big thing. And we all have difficulties doing the things we don't want to do. But it is truly what strong people do. And so I encourage you to be strong, be fearless, and to move forward past your fears and make those hard decisions. And I'll tell you, probably one of the hardest decisions that folks have to make is making changes to who's coaching them in retirement from a financial perspective. Now, it reminds me, the other day, I was sitting down with some folks that were not young at all. Okay. They were well in their 80s, been working with the same financial advisor for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. But they were very concerned about the amount of risk in their portfolio. And when we ran through our risk analysis, did our financial x-ray of everything, they were right to be somewhat concerned, because their risk score on their portfolio was so much more than the risk number of themselves. And so, it's hard to make that choice. And also, they haven't made it yet, right? We're still in that process. And so, but it's hard to make that choice, to make a change. But that's what strong people do, is they make those hard choices, Jen.
Right. We do need to make some of those tough choices, and we just need to buckle down and get it done. The last thing that we'll cover that mentally strong people always say is, this is how I'm going to improve. It's one thing to build an awesome retirement plan for someone and have the clients feel indifferent or worse, not even confident in the plan. What do you say to people who might feel this way about their current retirement plans?
I would say, there's this book I'm reading by David Goggins, right? And he's embrace the suck is what he says, right? Okay. Embrace the suck.
Yeah.
When you got to make hard decisions, when you don't feel like doing it, you got to press through and do it anyway, because it's in your best interest to get it done. And so really and truly, making that little incremental change isn't a big deal. Just it's doing it. Think about it. If folks in back in 2008 or 2000, if they had made 10 years before that, made little incremental changes in how much of their portfolio was at risk versus how much was in the market, where would they be today compared to where they ended up? Making that little incremental change would be huge. Same thing on fees, right? If I just make a little incremental change, if I'm able to reduce my fees just a little bit overall, how much improvement would that make to my returns and to increase my portfolio? So it's just making those little changes along the way that will help people improve. I mean, I use a business coach. I read books like David Goggins, and that's the thing. It's making that little incremental change within your business that will get you so much further down the road. It's no different with your retirement or your planning, anything. It's making that little incremental change that really and truly will make a huge impact down the road, Jay.
It does, and it's just something that we want to think about. Philip, real quickly, tell us how we can reach you if we want to start making these incremental changes and these marginal gains with our retirement.
Jen, it's easy. All folks have to do is give us a call at 863-285-3815. Again, that number is 863-285-3815. Or you can go to our website at statlerfinancial.com. We have a link right there to our calendar to schedule a financial x-ray. That's really and truly the starting point for folks to really start to make those incremental changes, because you can't make changes, Jen, if you don't know where you are right now. And that's really what our financial x-ray does. It helps people look at and focus on where they are currently so they know what incremental changes they need to make going forward, so they have the retirement they always dreamed of. Again, give us a call at 863-285-3815 and let us coach you into and through retirement.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be back.
Call Philip Statler today to get started on your complimentary financial x-ray report. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
From the pitch, swung at a little too soon.
Strike three, you're out.
To the joke told at the wrong time. To barely missing your connecting flight.
This is the final boarding call for Flight 109 to Chicago.
Timing is everything. The same is true for your Social Security benefits. Take them too soon and you could leave a lot of money on the table. Take them too late and you might spend down too much of your savings. Everybody's situation can be different, but taking your Social Security benefits at the right time is important for your retirement success. Philip Statler at Statler Financial understands Social Security and can help you make decisions that are best for you and your retirement dreams. Call 863-285-3815 to start optimizing your benefits. With Social Security, timing is everything, so don't delay. Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial today. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Our firm offers insurance services and is not affiliated with the U.S. government. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here alongside Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. Philip is the inaugural Highlander Award winner for Financial Representative of the Year. He gets questions from people all the time about all things retirement. So, Philip, we have a collection of people. We went out, got some common retirement questions. We figure if these folks have questions about these things, you listening probably do too. So, what do you say, Philip? Should we get into our Man on the Street segment and hear the questions that the people out there have?
Absolutely. We'll see what kind of questions they have today.
Yeah, we have a good collection of them today. Our first question, we ran into Al, and here's his question.
Hey, so my buddy down the street keeps bringing up this investment over and over and over again. He's excited about it. He swears by it. I'm interested, but I'm also concerned because I really don't know a whole lot about it. So what would be the best way to research something like that Because I've always heard that you should always understand what you're investing in.
Absolutely, Al, definitely. You do want to understand what you're investing in. And one way to do that is to do some research, right? So Google sometimes can be a bad thing, but Google the company, see what kind of articles there are out there to read about. Other than that, you need to go to the company's website. They usually will have an investment relations section on there. See if you can't get their income, their financial statements. I would say read the prospectus, but you'd go to sleep if you read the prospectus. But I would say look at what analysts have to say. Look at some different analysts that might be following that company to make sure what they say. Are they buying it? Are they selling it? Are they holding it? These are all some ways that you can at least get some idea about the company. But remember this, Al, just because your friend, your brother-in-law, or some family member is making an investment, their financial situation could be totally different than yours. And so you need to look at it from your perspective, not from their perspective, and make sure that they're not trying to sell you something that they're going to benefit from. That's the other thing I'd warn you about.
All right. Good question, though. Certainly something to keep in mind, I think, as well, Philip, that there might be something that's worked really well for our brother-in-law or our neighbor or our coworker. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's right for us. So just another thing.
That's right, Jen. And it could be they bought it 6 to 8 months ago, and now it's not the time to buy it.
Yeah,
right?
They got it at the right time.
It's hit a high.
Right.
Why go buy it now?
Right, exactly. So, yeah. Lot of things to think about there. Next question is from Pete, and I'll let Pete ask the question. Here we go.
I'm a freelancer, and I've always had enough income, but I don't have a company 401k that I can contribute to. So what are some options for me when it comes to saving for retirement? I'm 47, so I do have some time, but I don't want to put it off any longer.
I'm glad you don't want to put off any longer. That's a good sign. So, you are self-employed. You have a Schedule C. You have your own business as a freelancer. And so there are a lot of different options out there for you to create your own retirement plan. You can do a solo 401k. You can do a simple plan. You can do a SEP. So which one of those is going to work best for you? I don't know without sitting down with you to really look at your tax returns and look at your net worth to really kind of make that determination. I'd love to do that and help you with that process if you'd like. But there's a lot of retirement options out there. I would think between a financial advisor and a tax person, you could figure out which one would be best for your circumstances.
All right. Great question. And let's just go through that real quickly as you talk about that process for helping people determine the right options. Philip, can you just tell us about that real quickly before we move on to our next question?
Absolutely. When we're sitting down with folks, there's a lot of things that have to go into making financial decisions. And so we look at, how much do you have in your IRAs or your retirement accounts? How much do you have that's not in your IRAs and retirement accounts that you have access to now? How much are you going to need to live off of in retirement? And then what's your current tax situation? Because we want to make tax sensitive recommendations when we sit down with folks to do these things. And so really and truly, for me, I believe people have to know where they are right now in order to know if they need to make any changes. And so many folks I sit down with don't really know where they are right now. They don't know how much risk is in their portfolio. They don't know how much they're paying in fees and expenses. And so you can't move forward unless you know where you are moving from. And so that's really the first part of our process, Jen, is determining that. And then from there, we decide what road we need to go down. Is, tax planning more important? Do we need to do retirement planning? Or is it time now to start doing retirement income planning and get ready for that final quarter of the game that we're going to retire?
Let's do one more. Last person we ran into for our segment here today is Jan. And let's take a listen to Jan's question.
Our youngest will be finishing high school next year, and it's really hitting me because I'm not sure we've saved enough for the future. We've just been so busy with life that we haven't thought much about retirement. What should we do first?
Jan, I've been there, and I will tell you that you might have 4 more years before you can really focus on retirement. Getting through college, maybe. If you could do it now, that would be great. But so once that event happens and you're to the point, then you need to focus on retirement. And that starts by getting the most out of your current employer retirement plan. So if you have a 401k at work, making sure that you're doing all you can to get the most out of that, the biggest match you can get. Make sure you're putting enough away. Sitting down and putting together a financial plan would definitely help give you a roadmap to save for retirement, to know how much you need in retirement. What's that number for you? And I think that would calm a lot of your fears and erase a lot of that uncertainty that's out there, is if you had a plan in place that would get you from where you are now at your age to where you want to be when you get ready to retire, and give you that roadmap to go on. It is going to be huge. And I think that's, for you, is probably where it starts, is, sitting down with somebody and developing a true financial plan to see what it's going to take to get you to the retirement you've always dreamed of.
So a great collection of questions here today, very diverse set of questions. And I do think it's important when we look at a question like Jan's, this is a lot of people. We're just busy with life. We haven't, so many times we're so busy thinking about what we're dealing with right now and tomorrow and next week. It can be hard to think about retirement down the road. So Philip, I guess, what's your final message for our listeners here today, and for people who do have questions? They do want to make sure that they're on the right track. What should those folks be thinking about?
I think that no matter where you are in life, we need to think about the end game. I mean, that's the whole deal, is we need to think about the end game. And the end game is at some point we're going to retire. So what do we need to do to prepare for that? And there's going to be bumps along the way. We're going to have kids. We're going to have to put them through school. We're going to have to get them through college. And then we may have job changes. We might have other health issues. There's a lot of things that could be bumps in the road. But by having some kind of plan in place that you sit down and look at least once a year, even if you're younger, having that financial plan, that roadmap to your financial freedom, I call it, in retirement, is huge. And that's a good starting place to kind of know where you need to be and when you need to be there. It allows you to tweak things along the way as we continue to make improvements towards our retirement. It allows you to get back on track if you get off the track, because now you know what that track looks like. Folks, listen, if you're not sure about your retirement, if you're not sure where you are today in terms of risk in your portfolio, expenses you're paying, will it be enough? All the questions that I know go through your head as you start to think about retirement. Give us a call at 863-285-3815. That number is 863-285-3815. Don't procrastinate. Don't put it off any longer. Pick up the phone. Give us a call. 863-285-3815.
Information provided during the Statler Financial Radio Show is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. All investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. No strategy is guaranteed to be successful.
This radio show is a paid placement.